voice of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Tuesday in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a good show for you. I will warn you off the front that Kelly is en route to a gymnasium near you, and thus will sound as though he is coming from Radio Uganda. Kelly.
Pretty good, George. Pretty good.
Where are you and where are you trying to get?
I'm in parts unknown, man. I got to go to Cookville. Basketball season is starting for my daughter, so Lipscomb University, where it's her last year, so we're heading to the Eglin Center. Is that what it's called? The Eglin Center at Tennessee Tech. So
Hooper Eblin Center, yeah.
Eblin, that's it. Yeah, the Eglin Center. So that's where we're headed. So I got a little bit of added pressure on me too, because I just said something smart to Billy, and my wife's over here going,
Really?
And I want to just tell, I just want to tell her that this happens every day. Luckily, she doesn't hear. You know,
right.
So she's gonna have to get over it.
So she's not a frequent listener to the show.
Well, she works, so she's in there on the computer, working and doing all that stuff. But no, she hears me too much already, so I'm sure she doesn't want to listen to me for 2 more hours.
Smart lady.
Exactly.
So, your daughter, am I right, had an awful injury a year ago that created this extra year?
She did, yeah. She had a severe dislocation. She ripped every tendon and ligament in her ankle, and she had surgery, and it took her a long time to get over that. And I'm really anxious about her playing, man. I mean, that was such a hard injury to get over, and I'm sure she's a little anxious about it too, because this is going to be her first live competition. So when you have an injury like that, there's always a doubt in your head, because you don't want it to happen again. You want to get over that, but it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for Billy.
It.
We go from Uganda to the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you are. It's where I am. What's up?
Not much. No Terry today? Is he in the air?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we may hear from him near the end of the show, and in fact, we may put out an all points bulletin that we want to see. We want to see Yankee Stadium in the background. So the deal is that Terry, before the series started, went on one of these places and bought 2 tickets for him and the child. The child has a name. It's Connor. Connor, when Terry and I did a Sunday night show together years ago, and the child would come in with all that Yankee garb because he knew it pissed me off.
Yeah.
And so I never call him Connor. He is simply the child.
Nice.
Problem is the child now about 20.
Is there any way we can give a nickname to Billy, something like that, like the jerk or the child, or what can we give?
What happened? What happened to the kid from the Andy Griffith Show?
Opie? Yeah, that's right. Can I call you Opie from now on? I will. I think I will. You got a little bit of resemblance to Opie, especially when your glasses are off.
Any of you who are watching the show by way of podcast, this is not how I look, okay? I have not been embalmed. It just happens to look like it. Billy refuses to give me any color, and yet the Greek olive look is obvious. And yet today...
George, you're overthinking it. It's not that bad.
It's not that good. I mean, you're used to looking like that. I do not want that. I go out in the sun occasionally.
I'm about to ask if Billy can get some sunscreen and put over his head, because sometimes when I look at him, it blinds me. He's got a forehead like Peyton.
Hey,
wow.
If I'm compared to Peyton Manning, I'm okay with that.
Did you ever get on Peyton about that?
Now, what do you think?
Oh, I know you did.
Am I sitting here talking to y'all?
Look, a good interviewer knows the answer before he asks the question.
Well, you know the answer. You know my answer. Yes. Very often I said things about it.
Okay, I figured. Billy,
Yes.
do you have an update since we have a little extra time? Perhaps you have a little extra, maybe for extra credit?
A little bit of extra stuff.
Okay.
But it is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. You can find her online at mortgageladyyusa.com or give her a call, 615-969-4350. Well, last night the Dodgers go up 3-0 in the World Series as they beat the Yankees 4-2. Walker Buehler, former Vanderbilt pitcher, 5 scoreless innings. And Terry's at risk of seeing a sweep.
Yeah, and I have seen one where the visitors celebrate on your turf. 1992, Braves Toronto, tying run at third in the bottom of the 11th, the place going absolutely nuts. Otis Nixon, former Sound, bunts, which I thought was a great idea. Mike Timlin of the Blue Jays got off the mound in great shape, threw him out by just a little bit, and all of a sudden the balloon got popped. And you watch Toronto out there celebrating, and you're like, dadgum, that ought to be us. But whatever.
I bet that's really cool for the visiting team to do it on your field, to kind of smear it in your face, but not for your fans. You'd obviously want it back in your home stadium, but you would think as a player, that's where I would want to do it, on the opposing team's field, just so I could smear it in their face.
You know, the Braves did that 3 years ago in Houston.
I didn't like it.
In a game. Yeah, I mean, it would have been so much more fun had it happened in Atlanta.
Right.
But it was weird because it was I want to say it was a 6-0 or a 7-0. Jorge Soler hit a home run halfway to Mexico.
But that was the celebration. I mean, you knew that hit is what won them.
Right, and
the
then
World
Max
Series.
Fried, who apparently will be a Brave no longer, and that has me bummed, pitched 6 great shutout innings in that game. However, we move on to the update.
Well, New Yorkers are not happy. The Giants lost last night as well to the Steelers 26-18 in what was kind of an ugly game. Justin Fields did not play. My prediction did not come true. But Russell Wilson looked pretty good. And, I mean, what was that, like 4 or 5 straight field goals there? Again, it was another field goal type game.
6 of them in the first half.
6.
First half ended 9-9.
Well, this same thing in the Commanders-Bears. There's just field goals left and right.
Yeah. What's going on is these teams have these long drives, but if they get first and goal at the 8 or the 9 instead of the 2, you get a lot of field goals, especially when the referee goes, holding 74 offense. Still first down.
Is that not amazing to y'all? I've said it every week. It's getting on my nerves with all these calls. Like, at some point, let the guys play football.
Yeah.
They need to do a deep dive into the rule book in the NFL and get rid of some of the, he didn't report, he didn't cover this guy, who didn't cover this guy.
He didn't report.
Yeah, that was a big play a year ago in a Detroit Lions game in Dallas.
Well, that was a play the other day that Brian Callahan got really upset at because y'all saw it on the TV. They were running a screen route, and Skoronski, I think it was Skoronski, actually shoved the guy, and it looked like he may have hit. I don't know what it looked like, but like it was a screenplay. He's not trying to hold him. He's trying to throw him away. They called a holding on Skoronski, and Brian Callahan went crazy.
Yeah.
Well, other NFL news, the Colts are benching Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco. Richardson asked to come out of Sunday's game against the Texans for one play because he was tired. What's that about?
Oh, my gosh. It's because he was 10 of 32. That's why.
Yeah.
It's the first time I have ever seen a quarterback do that. And Kelly, I've got to believe that, first of all, when Joe Flacco went in the huddle, I would have loved to have heard some of the comments from those offensive linemen who are fighting their butts off.
That's right.
I mean, what level of maturity has this kid got?
I'm telling you, he did the same thing in college. Same thing in college. He got hurt. He wasn't very accurate with the football. He's an absolute specimen when you look at him. He's like Javon Curse. He's a freak.
Yeah.
But is that what you want as a leader of your team? Can he be a leader? It doesn't. I don't understand how guys. First of all, I think the guy was a mistake getting drafted by them. But are they going to admit their mistake? And this coach looks like he may. It doesn't matter to him. I think he just wants to win. But I just don't think the guy's got it. That's just me.
I would assume that on the flight home from Houston, that there was an offensive lineman or two that went up to him and told him to take his tired and shove it.
Yeah, you just don't lead people like that. You can't, they lose respect for you. And when they found out that happened, what do they think about you? What is your team like? They're out there busting their chops trying to win a game, and then you go over and say, "Hey, I'm tired. Can I come out?" Really?
Well,
wow.
He needed to lie about it in the press conference and say, I thought I was hurt or something. He didn't even have enough ring savvy to do that.
Yeah, I would have pleaded the fifth on that one. I'm not going to lie, but first of all, I wouldn't have come out of the game. I mean, I felt like my back was broke one time. I got a stinger. I've only experienced that one time in my life. I got a stinger because I tried to block somebody, and that was ignorant on my part because it was a reverse. And my whole right side of my body went numb, and I'm like, how am I going to take a snap? But I'm like, not coming out of the game. But luckily, it was a run play, so all I had to do was hand off.
Moving on to more heartwarming stories.
Well, this is a bad story. Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs has a torn ACL and will miss the rest of the season. D'Amico Ryans called Diggs' injury a big blow. Two-time All-Pro. He ranked 7th in the NFL in catches this season and was 2nd on the Texans in receiving yards.
I happened to see it because I had 2 TVs on in the den, and there became a point where I took the Titan dumpster fire and put it on TV too.
Good for you.
I didn't even know Hendon Hooker went into the game late. People were talking about that yesterday, and I'm like, I didn't even know. I didn't know people were still watching at that point. I do feel
at
bad.
At that point, I was into red zone.
Yeah, I do feel bad for people that have to go to every Titans game. Because that's
you don't have to. It's
no,
a decision.
I know. I'm saying I experienced that last year with Vanderbilt, and it was not fun. When you know what's going to happen pretty much every game.
People are given choices.
Yes. Correct.
Let's see here.
That's why we live in the United States. We have choices.
Yeah. Another college piece. Jack Tuttle, Michigan quarterback, announced that he's medically retiring from football. He's a 7th-year senior. He played in 2 games for the Wolverines this season. Only made 1 start.
This poor kid has been beaten all to you-know-what. I went back. I saw the story last night. If you look through the list of injuries this kid has had, holy cow. I mean, it's a miracle he's standing.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, guys. If you don't take care of yourself, man, that stuff can have a lasting effect on you the rest of your life.
Yep.
Their quarterback room, Michigan's, has been awful this year, but they have presented $5 million in NIL to a 5-star LSU commit, Bryce Underwood, at quarterback. And they've got an interesting strategy there because they kind of need a quarterback. So they have.
Well, now hold on a second, because I'm looking at the story. Excuse me. Are they seeking to flip him, or have they flipped him?
They're seeking to flip him
because
they've offered him $5 million.
LSU will throw a little more jambalaya out there.
Yep.
And this kid's in a good leverage position. I'll say that
he is.
This isn't Akron and Georgia State. This is Michigan and LSU. This is the
I had a
Les
coach-
Miles Bowl.
Yeah, I had a coach tell me the other day, stars will get you fired, and he is absolutely correct.
Stars.
Stars. He's a 5-star. He's a 4-star. You start going after stars. Stars are going to get you fired eventually.
That's a good
I
point.
guarantee you, Anthony Richardson was a 5-star.
That's the thing. Anthony Richardson, the fact that he's gotten this far, I mean, it tells you about the quote-unquote upside, but, man, I never thought he was that good at Florida.
I'll say this. He's got a real repair job to do inside that locker room because
Who's in a worse spot right now, Colts or the Titans?
Well, I mean, the Titans, they're a dumpster fire.
But aren't the Colts?
Yeah, they're not
Colts
in
will be
great
fine
shape.
with Joe. Yeah, but they'll be fine with Joe Flacco. I promise you.
Is Joe Flacco much different than Mason Rudolph?
Based on
Absolutely.
what he did a year ago in Cleveland, yes.
He's won a Super Bowl, Billy. I know he's getting older, but still, the guy's been
He's
there, done
50.
that.
He's
It doesn't
not 50.
matter. He beat the Titans, which is not saying much, but still,
That's
he
not
can win
saying
games.
anything.
So how does Anthony Richardson repair that piece of damage?
When you just said that, George, I really don't know if you can. I don't think you can with that team. I don't know that you can.
I mean,
I'm
that
not
is
sure.
that is the unthinkable. You know, is to come out of the game because you're tired. I mean, make something up. If you're that stupid to want to get out because you're tired, first of all, I saw the play. It's not like he was running a marathon.
Well,
But
don't know. That's
have
what
enough
that's
ring
what happened.
savvy.
Yeah, that's what happens when all these guys run around and do all the stuff that they're doing nowadays. They get winded. Well, if you're going to run around, maybe you need to get out there and do some sprints. Maybe you need to get yourself in shape a little more, Hoss.
That's bad. That's what I got.
That's our update. The lesson to be learned from this is twofold. Number one, if you're the quarterback, don't ask out claiming to be tired. And number two, if you're stupid enough to do that, by the time you get to the press conference, make up a damn good lie.
Well, I'm not going to do that, George, but I'm going to ask them, you know what? I'm probably going to skip this press conference here. Fine me or do whatever, but I'm not answering that question.
Okay, after the break, we're headed to Knoxville. Tony Basilio will join us. Look forward to it. Tennessee had the week off, which means he should be more rested than normal, getting ready for the Kentucky Wildcats, who come in Saturday night. This is 94.9, The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com. It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hey, this is Andrew Allegretto, voice of Vandy football. Hope you can join me, Norm Jordan, and Kevin Ingram as Vanderbilt heads to Auburn this Saturday. Kickoff at 11:45. Pregame coverage starts at 10. Your sports live here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back. So, Kelly, before I bring Tony Basilio up, I have to admit I've pulled one of those, and I forgot it. One of those Anthony Richardson deals.
Okay.
One day on the show, and this is a true story. I was bragging about the fact that I had hit a worm burner within less than a foot of a hole-in-one. We hadn't had rain in weeks, and Harpeth Hills was like a cement mixer. And so I get to the show, and we hit the breaking news sounder at the beginning, and God, who obviously has a sense of humor, inflicted me with a kidney stone. And so I did pull.
Ain't no joke.
No, they're absolutely not. So I did pull an Anthony Richardson. Of course, I'm sweating profusely. We go to the commercial, and Willie goes, "Are you okay?" And I looked at him. I said, "Do I look okay? Is this normal?" And I proceed to leave, and he goes, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to the hospital emergency room." So I guess maybe I have pulled an Anthony Richardson. Let's bring Tony Basilio up, longtime Knoxville sports talk show host. In all those years, have you ever begged out of a broadcast?
Are you kidding? Of course. When you do this for 30 years, George, you invent reasons not to show up. But never because I was tired. I mean, imagine being enough of a living brain donor that you would go before the media and say, "So why did you leave that last drive?" "You saw me. I was tired, man. I was hitting my head. I was tired." I mean, what a brain donor.
The
Tony,
excuse,
Tony, can you ever get that back, though, if you think as a player, like, he's lost so much respect. Is there any way that you can gain that back as a player? Because me, I say no.
No. It's kind of like Urban Meyer when his guys knew he was a fraud, or Nick Saban, what he did down there in Miami when he stepped over that dude after he passed out, from the heat stroke. I mean, some things you're just not going to come back from in those NFL locker rooms. Just the way it is.
Your best bet, the one that nobody will challenge, is explosive diarrhea.
Well, I mean, George, that's just it. Like, you were right. I mean, you would come off the field and go, "Hey, man, nature called," and everybody would be like, "Ah." And that is the truth with a lot of organizations. They would cover for that. You know, they would, "Hey, that'll be our story. You're going to stick to it. And by the way, kid, you're never checking out of a game today or ever again because you're tired." You know, stuff like that's gone on before, but this moron, I mean, you got to have literally like a 50 IQ to go before the media and go, "You know, I work hard and I'm just tired. I'm tired over here."
He never would have done that at Florida. Kelly, why not?
Oh, we lost his mic.
We've lost Kelly. The correct answer is because Florida is a member of the SEC, and it just means more.
That's a great answer.
Listen, you're going to enjoy this segment because it sounds like we've lost Kelly, who's trying to talk. He is on basically like Radio Uganda right now.
Well, the best thing about this segment right now is Kelly can hear me and I can't hear him, and I call that great radio where I come from.
Isn't it, though? What would you like to say to him right now where he can't really respond?
Kelly, you are to this radio show as Anthony Richardson is to the Colts.
Wow. He's going to slug you.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to. Now he went away.
Well, now if he gets back into range, George, I'm going to have to lighten my rhetoric on him.
Yeah, apologize.
I was preparing something for my blog tomorrow. This Kentucky team the Vols are about to see, guys, is not good.
No, they're going off the rails.
Besides the obvious that Vandergriff hadn't been all that good, what do you think's going on there?
I don't know, George. They just don't have players. I mean, they have 7 offensive touchdowns in 6 SEC games. Dylan Sampson has 8 himself. They've lost 7 SEC football games in a row on their home field. And they've gotten trucked a couple of times by the middle of the league. Auburn and South Carolina. Those aren't teams vying for playoff spots, George.
No.
They've lost 11 out of 13 home games in their building. And they brought an offensive coordinator in this year to play faster. And Stoops has put the governor on him. I mean, it's remarkable how bad they are. They've had 17 300-yard passing games in 12 years under Mark Stoops. This is a modern era. I mean, this was like not 1977.
Kelly, while we've got you on, I'm going to let you ask questions first, and Tony will read a prepared statement, which will serve as an apology.
Can y'all hear me?
Hey, Kelly, when you're out of range, I just want you to know I would never ever dunk on you. George tried to pull me into that, Kelly, but I won't be a party to something like that.
Well, if you were going to say something about me, then I'm going to say something about you. George said that since y'all didn't have a game, y'all had an open week, you probably got some rest, but I'm not sure that you got any rest by the look of you.
You can tell. Hey, you can tell by looking at me. There ain't a lot of rest around here, big boy.
Big boy.
Hey, do you think? Yeah, I heard y'all talking about Mark Stoops and his inadequate offense. Do you think Mark Stoops is on a hot seat?
No, he makes too much money, and
you think so?
You're not going to terminate a football coach after what happened with your basketball coach if you're Mitch Barnhart and you like your job. So the thing about Stoops is, though, he had the sense. These coaches know. He had the sense to try to get out of there last year. He tried to get that A&M job.
Yep.
Right.
And these guys know. These guys, look, this guy's been here. This is year number 12. Smart coach one time told me in basketball, Dave Odom, he said, Tony, after 1 decade, unless you're from there, you got to get out of there because they all get tired of your rubber chicken circuit speeches. Fans get tired of looking at you. Players don't hear you anymore. There's just and now that there's big money in this stuff, 10 years now, to be one place for a dozen years is a minor miracle these days.
So let me ask let me ask both of you this.
All right.
If he had Kentucky at the level that he has had them for a long time, which is remarkable,
yeah,
couldn't you sort of connect some dots and say when Oklahoma shows Brent Venables the exit door, that Mark Stoops would be an obvious there?
If you're asking me, I think absolutely. I mean, that's a Stoops name. But like, what I was going to ask Tony and y'all, I mean, does he have enough on his resume now with what he's done at Kentucky to garner another job like that?
Last year, but not this year. Look, we are such a we're so captive of the moment in college sports that it almost doesn't make sense, George. Sometimes guys will win. I remember when that Gary Waters guy won 2 games at Kent State a couple years ago because a couple kids hit shots, and Arkansas couldn't wait to hire him. And that's what we all do. A guy will have 1 year. Now Clark Lee all of a sudden is a great coach, George. Know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's weird how the sport works. It's
but
really
to
strange.
me, the smart AD is the one who says, okay, this year is an outlier. This
Agreed.
guy, what he's done for 10 years at Kentucky is miracle stuff.
Agreed. And you would think, I'll try and I'll overlook what happened there and let's bring him in. The problem with Stoops is he's a stodgy, conservative coach. It's hard to sell that to fan bases these days. Just is. Fan bases want Josh Heupel. They want flash. They want to go fast. They want to score points. We're in entertainment now.
Kelly?
That's my sense of it.
Did we lose him again?
Never sounded better. Never made more sense.
Oh, listen to this. Okay, try it.
No?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, try
All
it.
right, is there anything, Tony, that Kentucky does that gives you any concern for Tennessee Saturday?
So I had the great Larry Vaught on the show today, and I said, Larry, what does – because he was going through this whole list of ills on Kentucky. I said, what does Kentucky do well? And he went like this. Kind of like that. They can't throw it. They don't run it. They're not protecting very well on offense. They've got 2 really good wide receivers, but they can't get the ball to them. Barry Brown's a nice player. Dane Key, those are 2 Tennessee kids. They're both really nice SEC football players.
But about the time you want to sell them down the river, they took Georgia to the mat.
Yep.
Well, I mean, did they, or did Georgia just sleepwalk? The thing about Georgia is, George, I'm convinced of this with Georgia in the last couple of years. They either circle you or they don't. And if you're one of those games they circle on your schedule, you better pre-medicate because you're getting ready to get you a triple dose of that stuff. And you can't tell me that the same Georgia team that shows up for Texas is the same Georgia team that showed up in some of those other games because it's just not the case. And their roster's good enough that they can get away with that. Kentucky, I think, is the outlier in their deal this year is winning at Ole Miss. How'd they do that? How do we explain that?
It just means more.
Exactly. And I was thinking about you guys because I can't imagine in the off week. The off week here was really a tough weekend to watch college football. There wasn't a lot of great games. Man, that Vanderbilt team, guys, is really impressive. Really. Like, when I bring it up on my show, Tennessee fans don't want to hear this. Kentucky's got a credible, formidable football team this year. Very good at what they do. That was really impressive. Really impressive with Texas over the weekend.
Kelly, keep going if you got anything.
So Tony, what do you talk? Yeah, Tony, if you're looking at it, Vanderbilt, last game of the season, they got to go down to Georgia. Tennessee's got to go down to Georgia. You know, we can say what we want to, but just like you talked about, they're ready to play. It's at home. They're going to be tough. But just how big could that last game be for Tennessee to make this top 12 against Vanderbilt?
Huge. Tennessee's easiest path into that playoff, I don't think it's their only path, but it's their easiest path, obviously, is to win the Georgia game. Because if they don't, and it's left in the hands of a committee, in a year where Tennessee's opponents just aren't cooperating, I mean, it is a year where, and I don't think Alabama's done losing. I really don't. It's a year where their opponents just, I mean, that poor Oklahoma program, guys, they are bottoming out. That thing is bottoming out. You brought up Venables before. That NC State team is completely bottoming out. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so Florida, I mean, that Florida team they're wretched. This Kentucky team we're seeing, you know, they're not what they've been in recent years. It's really strange. Tennessee's clearest path in, obviously, is to beat Georgia, because if they don't, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a coin flip at 10-2 as to whether or not the Vols get in. They really are going to need some help from here, guys. They really are.
So, Tony, each Monday, I'll just sort of put my own little bracket together and put it on the show. Mm-hmm. I had Tennessee and Texas playing each other as an 8-9, and in fact, there you see it. Wow. I'm curious what you think the committee will do if it's a one-loss Indiana.
George, one-loss Indiana's going to get in. They're going to get in. Now, do they play Ohio State closely? They play Ohio State closely, George. They're going to walk into the playoff. Not only are they going to get in, they're going to walk in. And the weird thing about that playoff, George, is we don't know their criteria. Nobody's saying anything. Another thing from Tennessee's perspective, I keep going back to, that Indiana has is the style points. Indiana is covering and beating people and beating up on people, and they're really, really – George, they won with that backup quarterback, Taven Jackson, and so smart of their offensive staff. They looked at him after that first throw of the second half, and they said, son, you're handing the ball off the rest of this half. And we're going to run – they're going to run – yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I watched it with you. You're exactly right.
Incredible. I mean, it was a great win by them. And I say incredible because the Signetti guy, everybody looked at him and said, you're crazy. You can't win there. And he said, okay, watch. I'm going to take guys that were with me now at James Madison, and I'm going to win there. I'm going to show you there's a lot of good football players all over the place, and I'm not going to make any excuses. And I find that story refreshing. I hope it doesn't come back and cost the Vols a spot. But if they go 11-1, George, and play Ohio State, just a credible game.
Right.
I don't think you can keep them out of there.
Okay, Billy, put that graphic back up there. So, Tony, I've got this theory, and you tell me if you buy it or you think it's hogwash. So, right now, you've got the four that would be, you know, a first-round bye. If the season ended today, these are probably the four. A&M, even though I don't believe they're better than Georgia, I'll have to see that to believe it. But I do wonder if there will come a point where a new set of rules will say, look, just because you're the conference champion, it does not give you an automatic bye. It guarantees you'll get in, but your worthiness will decide where you are.
Boy, George, that's a great point. See, And this is going to come down to, at the end of the year, how we're going to deal with these conference championship games, because you're projecting here, okay?
Right.
And so I will say to anybody listening, how do we deal with conference championship games? And we've wrestled with this on the air, and I wrestle with it off the air. They have to make them matter, George, because they're a part of the formula. If they only make them window dressing, if they only treat them as exhibition games at the end of the year and don't base seeding off of them, then we're wasting our time playing them. In a lot of ways, they are another, if you think about it, they're another layer to the postseason. And I think they're going to really make them matter. And here's what I mean. I think that teams are going to help or hurt themselves at the end of the year, and they have to because they're playing these games. And the SEC and the Big Ten are not going to give back those paychecks. And so, George, I think they're going to have to keep the conference, the teams that win the conference championship, that unless it's egregious. In other words, unless a 3-loss A&M team beats an undefeated Georgia team and they haven't faced each other all year, in that scenario, Georgia would go ahead of them in terms of 1-4. But otherwise, I think they're going to have to honor the teams that win those championship games in those spots. I've thought long and hard about it. If you're going to have them, you have to honor those teams in that spot, I think.
Kelly, his argument's better than mine.
I agree, man. I hadn't thought about that. He's probably right. I don't know. I like your argument, George. I like Tony's argument, but you're right. You got to make the conference championship. I hadn't thought about that. He's obviously put some thought into that in his long hours. But I think he may be right. They're going to have to do something to it. And if you do win the championship game, that's got to mean something.
Well, and my point is, guys, you can't look the other way. If you're going to keep those a part of the formula, then you got to bake them in, and you've got to make them count. Otherwise, most fans in year 2 will go, why in the world would I go to that game? I got the playoffs coming up. Why would I waste my money to go to Atlanta when I'm just going to keep my powder dry, watch that thing on television, even if I watch it? If you turned into enough of an exhibition game, why would I even look at it?
It's a really good point.
It's interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
So let me end it this way. In recent weeks, people's feeling about Nico has gone down some. Do you think in this 10 to 14 days that they've had open, you think they've been able to do anything that we'll notice in the weeks to come on him?
Oh, I think what happened to him, George, now that I've talked to people, they gave him way too much. He, early in the year, looked so good that they laid it on him. And then he went out against Oklahoma and looked like an 18-year-old kid, which is what he is, or a 19-year-old kid, extremely inexperienced kid who hadn't played a lot of football.
You're saying they threw the whole playbook at him.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Now they've dialed it back. And so they're going to start reintroducing things to him at a slower and fairer rate to him. Look, when you have people in the game like the Nick Sabans and the Urban Meyer telling people, hey, I had to call my friends, pulled off the side of the road, and hey, you got to watch this guy. You got to turn this. I know they're playing Chattanooga, but you got to watch this guy you got to watch this. When these guys are saying those kinds of things, you can't blame Tennessee internally for going, hey, we got the chosen one. The truth is, I think they overloaded him a little bit. And Kelly has a saying on here that I like, which I think is accurate, because I learned a lesson through this. Not everybody can play that position at a really high level, and it's not for everybody. And it's a really hard thing to do. And, I think Nico's a really good kid. I think he's got a solid infrastructure around him, and I'm rooting for him. But me dubbing him a superstar and people like me that do what I do, we weren't doing that kid any favors. And so I'm just going to watch this thing develop from here. and hope he turns out to be a pretty good quarterback during his time here. He's not there yet. I hope they can put it together this weekend. Hey, this Kentucky team they're playing has flat out quit. I mean, let's just call this what it is. And Tennessee needs to – they're working on a scoreless first half streak of 3 games, George, that dates back to the early 1960s. We're talking 61-year-old record that they set last week. It better not continue. They better score some points. They ought to put 3 scores up on this Kentucky bunch because these guys, I mean, let's just call this what it is. These guys blow out loud. I mean, they are what they are. They can't play. These guys can't play.
Okay, we're going to end this quick because when we go to the break, after the break, Terry McCormick's going to join us from Yankee Stadium.
Nice.
Billy, I need a one-word answer, and I need you to put yourself on camera. In the month of October, have you sent Tony a resume?
Look at him.
Of course I have.
I love that young man.
That's not one word, Billy. Listen to the instructions. One word.
Shut up, Kelly.
Yes or no?
Shut up, Kelly's one word.
Oh, man.
Hey, Billy, my DMs are always open, Billy.
You got it.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, Tony, how can somebody hear you not only Saturday night, but anytime if they have listened to this witty repartee and said, this cat's good?
Why?
Well, I don't know why. I don't know why.
T-Club.team is where you find us. Again, T-Club.team. Hey, listen, guys, a real highlight of my week is hanging out with you guys, which speaks to, I think, where my life is at this point. But I really –
Same here.
Hey, Kelly, safe travels and great talking to all of you.
Okay, and on that, we'll go to the break, and then Terry McCormick will join us from Yankee Stadium. This is 94.9, The Fan. As you might be able to tell, my buddy Stan Harrison, he's an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, but he's actually here to talk about Apple Collision Centers.
Hello, Middle Tennessee. I'm Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers, and we understand the stress it causes in having an automobile accident. We can help you ease the stress of the auto body repair process at our 3 locations. We're conveniently located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. We've got rental cars available, we have PDR technicians available, and we have windshield technicians available. Please stop by one of our places and see us if you need our services.
And by the way, when you come in his office, this just in, he's a sports fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in a car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you need to contact Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you are a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. Check them out today at pancoastbenefits.com or call 615-292-3400.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Okay, we are back, and given the fact that we talked with Tony Basilio earlier, let me just ask you all, when I put Tennessee yesterday in, God, Billy, you gotta put that thing back up. Did I put him at number 8 or number 9? I put him at number 9 on the road against Texas in the Orange Blossom Classic, I guess. What do you all truly think about where they're either headed or not headed?
I said after.
I truly think about which what I. Oh.
Sorry, Kelly.
Go ahead,
I said after
Go ahead, Billy.
the Alabama game, I didn't think they were a playoff team, and even before the Alabama game, when they lost to Arkansas, I don't see their makeup, and maybe Nico turns it all around and Tennessee figures a lot of their stuff out. But Kelly, I don't get the sense that they're a team that can go to Athens and beat Georgia. And if they get 2 losses, that's going to be dicey for them.
Absolutely not. I think you're right. If they go to Georgia, which I don't think they can beat Georgia at Georgia, and I think that last game of the year is going to be a really hyped up game, and I think that they're going to have problems with Vanderbilt. I really do.
So let me ask you all this, because I have thought all along that an SEC team with 2 losses is a codlock cinch. Is it simply that too many teams? Oh, my God, what am I doing here? Duh. Hold on a second. Stop the presses. Let's go to Yankee Stadium. I can't believe I screwed that up. Terry, you got about 3 minutes. Tell me what's going on.
Well, actually, I'm still at LaGuardia, but I'm en route to Yankee Stadium. Should be there well before first pitch. So we just got off the plane a little while ago and hoping that the Yankees can stay alive tonight.
Is the child hyperventilating?
No, he's here. He's happy. He's not as happy as he would be if it were 2-1 instead of 3-0. But we're still happy and just glad to have this opportunity to do this.
So you've been to World Series games because I helped get you some tickets.
You in 1999 to watch my Yankees defeat your Braves.
So has he ever been to a World Series game?
No, this is his first time. So it'll be exciting. It'll be at a place that I still think will be rocking, at least if the Yankees can somehow get in this game and not, get behind like they have the last couple of nights. I think that, the stadium will get rocking because it always does in the postseason.
I would pitch around Freddie Freeman in the first inning, just a thought, since he is going to be your World Series MVP before it's over.
Maybe just walk him every time up unless the bases are loaded, maybe even if they are loaded.
So am I right? You've got the better pitching matchup tonight. Are the Dodgers going bullpen?
They're going bullpen. The Yankees are going with Luis Gil, who was really dominant the first half of the season, then spent a little time on the injured list and came back, and he's been pretty good since he came back. But obviously he's thrown more innings this year than he has in any season of his pro career. And he's pitched, I think, once in the postseason, and that was in one of the games against Cleveland.
Is there an excitement in the city, or has that been completely deflated?
It feels like there are a lot of people here that are like just kind of exasperated that some of the air has gone out of the balloon.
Yeah. I hate that for you. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the fact the Yankees are about to get trounced, but I hate that for you. So tonight, I will make an exception. I will root for the Yankees. I want you to score early and often. I want the child not to hyperventilate, and I want you to have a really good time.
All right. He wants to say hi to you, George.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, the child, who has a name, and it's Connor. Hello, Connor.
George, how are you?
Good. How does it feel to get swept?
Oh, it hurts my soul.
It hurts your soul. Good Lord. That's a little serious.
Yeah,
So,
I kind of hate the Yankees right now.
have you been in the new Yankee Stadium?
Yes, we went to see the Padres Yankees when they still had like their blue colors, and then we went to see the Yankees and Red Sox. So this will be my third time, I believe.
Yeah. Well, enjoy this because your dad went to, and so did your mom, an incredible amount of trouble to get you up there. So I hope for both of your sakes that the Yankees score early and often and that you get to see a hell of a game.
Thank you. I know that hurts as a Braves fan for you to say.
It does, but let me just put it this way for you, big boy. You're in a 1-year rental. That's all it is. When my team gets healthy, you won't see the light of day.
Oh, really?
Listen, you and Terry, take care.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Talk to you. So, Billy, that is the child,
and his name is Connor.
Yes, he has a first name. I've been calling him the child though forever. So I had a big brain cramp. I know we got to go to a break. Stat of the day, where we've been kicking butt and taking names, comes up in just a moment on 94.9 The Fan. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company. Experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
I think the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win the NBA championship, and Dame Lillard's going to be the MVP of the NBA.
Whoa! Go on.
So I think they're going to have the year this year that everyone thought they were going to have last year.
Okay.
I think they're going to be really good this year, and I think Dame could be sneaky MVP candidate. I know most people think he's done. I don't.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday mornings starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. Chris Carlin, Joe Fortenbaugh. This is Carlin versus Joe.
Stephen A. Smith, you have been exceptionally generous with your time and your knowledge of people that you work with. If Joe Fortenbaugh comes to you and says, Stephen A., who's your tailor? Are you sharing that information?
No, I'd help him out. I got love for Joe. And Joe's a good-looking guy. Some of his suits look a little cheap, but I think that's intentional.
Carlin versus Joe. Weekdays at noon Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN app, and on SiriusXM Channel 80.
This is Daryl from Columbus, previously from the Paul Farmers.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9 The Fan.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Four o'clock is the time on the George Plaster Show here on 94.9 The Fan. It's
In
time
other words,
for,
we're late.
Yes, we're late.
Yeah. So what?
It's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. They've got 3 locations, one in Old Hickory, one in Hendersonville, and one in Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to applecollisioncenters.com.
Hey, if you end up in a collision, Stan Harrison and these folks, that's who you need to talk to. They're good.
Absolutely. George, as I pull up Stat of the Day, had an issue with the slides today, so I'm just going to ask you verbally here.
Really? How would Kelly feel about that?
Well, Kelly's not with us right now. We're having issues with Kelly.
You kind of got lucky there, didn't you?
I did get lucky.
Okay.
The Dodgers are 1 game away from sweeping the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time the World Series had a sweep?
Okay. This is not my answer, but the Red Sox swept the Cardinals in 2004. Has there been a sweep since then? Oh, goodness. Colorado Red Sox, I want to say, was 4-1, and that was in 2007. It's one of those two. I'm going to go either 2004 or 2007 with the Red Sox against either the Cardinals or the Rockies.
Well, it's actually 2012. The Giants and the Tigers.
Oh, God.
Or the Giants over the Tigers.
Yeah. Ugh. That was a bad series.
Yeah.
That one didn't get the kind of TV ratings this one's getting. Has anybody noticed the TV ratings? These have been, well, I mean, they should be. Good Lord, if you can't nationally get the kind of numbers they're getting now, when would you ever get them? But they have absolutely delivered, up into the 15 million range.
Bigger in Japan, I would guess.
I think I saw where in Japan that's put another 16, 17 million. And Danny Evans speculated last week on the show that that's exactly what would happen. I don't know the time difference, but obviously it's more difficult for them. So kudos.
Mm-hmm.
That is strong stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on getting Brent Zwerneman on here, but I haven't been locked into it, but I know Danny has, and certainly Terry. So
I want to brag on Brent Zwerneman from the Houston Chronicle, and I say this every time he comes on. He absolutely scooped the world. I don't know. It's been 3 years ago, I guess now, when he walked into SEC football media days with the story. And the story was Oklahoma and Texas are joining the SEC. And Brent Zwerneman joins us to talk a little bit. Brent, how you doing?
Good, George. And I mentioned this to you before. It was funny because that all came about by me scrounging around for a summer story to keep, stay gainfully employed. And it hit me that Arbo and Lofton, the then A&M president, had 10 years earlier to the day of July 21st, 2011, had declared the Big 12 in a state of uncertainty, as he said. And I said, you know what? I need to do an anniversary story on that. And so I started calling everyone I could think of from 10 years prior and beyond that I'd gotten to know, and beyond the Red River and so forth. And lo and behold, that story came about. And as the good timing would have it, I was at SEC Media Days. So instead of trying to call Greg Sankey, I was able to walk down to Radio Row and find him.
And he looked like he swallowed a hand grenade.
You said that, not me.
Has he talked to you about that since?
We have. I've actually known Greg. I was an old scrub middle reliever at Sam Houston State back in the early 90s as part of the Southland Conference. And he was in charge of SLC baseball at that time. And of course, I didn't know him then, but I'm sure we crossed paths back then. But then years later, when we put it together, and he thought the world, or thinks the world, of my former coach at Sam Houston. So there was a prior connection. And we've discussed it since. And one time he was in College Station, and he said, "Hey," he did tell me, "all in all, you did a good job on that story." And of course, he knew that I had to go with it once I had it as well.
You're not going to believe I'm going to ask this, but what the hell? You worked for years with the legendary John McClain, who I turned into a rock star up here. Man, you talk about popular in Nashville. Who does in Houston?
The next Garth Brooks. Yeah, who does what?
Absolutely. Who does the best John McClain imitation in Houston?
Let me think on that one. I think the first guy who came to mind was maybe Joseph Duarte, the U of H beat writer who had worked alongside John. I was trying to think of the imitations along the way, but it's certainly one of those kind of fabled impressions. There's no doubt. Like I do a pretty good R.C. Slocum. We run that Gulf Coast offense, but my McClain probably needs a little polish. But I think that might be Joe Duarte, our U of H beat writer.
Brent, his best line, we used to do a radiothon once a year for the Charles Davis Foundation, and we would sell dinners, John McClain dinners, that probably added an extra $750,000 to the Charles Davis Foundation over about a 10-year period. And John used to get into this, "You can give the money to Uncle Sam, or you can give it to us." It was hilarious.
Hey, George, I tell you, in terms of a local connection, one of my biggest scoops, probably top 5 ever, was also the death of Bud Adams.
Oh,
I remember if we ever discussed that, but
yes.
I've got, I'm from Houston. I'm a 5th generation Texan, 4th generation Houstonian. I've got a huge family. And so people would ask, "Man, where did that come from?" And I would say, "Well, my first cousin is a firefighter in Houston. My brother-in-law is a mortician down there." People would say, "Okay." But I just left it at that. Those are all
right.
facts, but I never went further than that in explaining.
Oh, that's wow. That's a little sobering. So, believe it or not, we actually brought you on to talk about a team you have covered for years, and that is the surging Texas A&M Aggies. First up, did you ever see this coming?
I had them picked, I think, in preseason at 8-4, and I'll say why. First of all, I was very impressed with Mike Elko when he was the defensive coordinator here, and a guy who was just really, really squared away. And the second part of that is this is the Aggies' most, and I've written this multiple times, this is the Aggies' most favorable schedule since they've been in the SEC. The 4 ranked teams they're playing in the regular season, all at Kyle Field. I just added up the last 3 opponents that they're playing. I think they have a 9-13 record here to close out the last third of the season. Then you get to Texas on November 30th. So I didn't think it was a reach. Now, LSU coming into Kyle Field in Brian Kelly's 3rd year, and then A&M running away with it essentially in the second half. No, I did not predict that, but I did see the return of the wrecking crew for the most part. There were some stumbles along the way under Mike Elko from 2018 to 2021. And I knew those guys, it was a very disciplined group, and I figured he would be the same way running an overall program. And I think you saw that at Duke over those 2 years. So in that sense, I had him at 8-4. I know it sounds crazy to say, but that's still not, it's not an easy, they're going to South Carolina. They got a road win at Auburn. They should win both those. The Texas game now is looking more like a toss-up and everything. So you're seeing where they could get to 10 wins, double digits for what, the first time since back when Johnny won the Heisman in 2012. So long-winded answer of saying I saw it, but not to this point. based on those two things. Knowing Elko is a disciplinarian who I felt like, smart guy too, but also the schedule. All those ranked teams are playing this year, George, are on the road next year. So as I said, hey, Aggies, just keep your eyes on 2024 because things get quite a bit tougher in 2025.
Brent, before I ask you about Marcel Reed, as a former SEC broadcaster, I've been to virtually all of the really loud places that this league has to offer. But I've never done a game at A&M. In your opinion, where does it stack on the noise meter?
The way I've heard it described is, and I've never been to Europe with one of the soccer games, but because of the unified yells and the way they're coordinated from the yell leaders, and you have over 100,000 in there. A lot of times you'll have close to 100,000 for, say, New Mexico State. It's kind of crazy. That's the way I've heard it described, is that what makes it unique is the unification behind the yells that can really, really create that environment. But then, like on the flip side, there's just a crazy rowdy environment at a place like LSU, especially one of those night games when the Aggies played over there. Well, it's just full tilt rowdy the whole time. But yeah, that comparison of, say, English soccer or European soccer with the unified yells and everything, I think makes A&M kind of a unique environment. And one of the things, George, 10 years ago now, it's hard to believe it's been that long ago, but Kyle Field used to be kind of more of an open concept. Like it wasn't tied in together, which I never liked, because when they sway, you could feel everything swaying. You could feel the press box swaying. I never liked that. I would write about it. I would say, this isn't safe. This is not a good thing to do with 100,000 people. Yeah. And thankfully there were some, guys who, when they did the rebuild, they said, hey, let's tie all this thing together. So that's what they did. All four sides are now tied together. It doesn't move nearly as much. And the other part is it's even louder in there because of that, because there's not that open ends and things like that as well. So it is quite an environment. And I covered the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years right around the turn of the century, but to me, there was just nothing better. And I'd covered the Aggies previously for the Bryan College Station Eagle at that time. And just a fall Saturday at Kyle Field was just something else, and that has, they've added a lot of things, a DJ in there and everything to kind of help out on that front. But it's still at its root, 100,000 Aggies yelling in unison, which is just a crazy, crazy setting. And you saw what happened with Brady Cook with Missouri, and you saw it with LSU with the poor snap on the field goal, where it hits the guy, the holder, in the face because he's looking back at the kicker. All those things, that crowd, it does impact play. And Mike Elko is very aware of that as well.
Oh, it's obvious that it has a major impact. I want to bring my co-host, Kelly Holcomb, former NFL quarterback, back in here. He's traveling to Cookeville, Tennessee for a scrimmage deal involving his daughter. Let's talk the quarterback thing. Is it now Marcel Reed from here on in?
I asked Mike Elko about that yesterday, and he said, it's too early in the week to tell, and if we knew, we wouldn't tell you anyway. And he kind of laughed. And I get that, because you are talking about having to prepare. I think LSU said they only prepared for Connor Wegman, who's kind of more that guy, that drop back guy and downfield passer. Whereas Marcel Reed, obviously, as y'all well know from his time, growing up in that area, I mean, just what a dynamic guy and a dynamic runner, dynamic player. So you have that added dimension. Mike Elko's answer was, we haven't determined that. And I said, is it a situation where you could freely use both guys? And he said, I don't know. He was playing it very coy. My guess is, based on everything you saw against LSU and the way that ball started moving around in the second half and they overcame a double-digit deficit, it would be Marcel Reed to start with. But you also say, okay, maybe he does start Connor Wegman again and gives him a very short leash at South Carolina and then says, okay, Marcel, it's yours. My guess is it would be Reed, but right now Mike Elko is not saying, and I get that, because the Gamecocks have to prepare for two quite different quarterbacks.
Kelly, I'm going to turn it to you and ask the question. You and Tim Couch handled that beautifully, as professionally on the pro level as it could ever be when two quarterbacks end up playing a lot. Can college players handle it that well?
I don't know. That's a good question, George. But what I want to know is in the locker room, because I've always said it, in the locker room, players always know. And if you go with the wrong guy, that's one guy, and that's one position that you can't make the wrong decision about, because if you do, it's going to kind of separate the locker room. And it seems like Texas A&M is at a good place right now. And when he came in the game the other day, Marcel Reed kind of gave him some energy, gave him something that they didn't have with Connor Wegman. So my question is this. I know he said what Mike Elko said, but has he got a feeling, Brent, do you have a feeling about what's going on in the locker room or what the sense is? Because you don't want to have a quarterback controversy in the middle of something that's good right now.
Yeah, Kelly, it's funny you asked that, because just from my observations being up in the press box, it did seem like those players responded to Reed when he came on. It seemed like there was an uptick in energy and response. And it seemed like that way when he led the Aggies to a 3-0 record, went on the road at Florida, snapped a 10-game losing streak, not just in SEC play, but on the road in true road games. Marcel Reed was the quarterback then. We were all kind of surprised when Connor Wegman got the starting job back, but Mike Elko said he wasn't going to lose it to injury. And we see the practices, y'all don't. And he explained it that way. But to your point, and I do think that the players are obviously have responded favorably to both. But man, it did seem like there was just kind of more energy and more excitement about the offense when Marcel Reed was in the game.
That's a tough decision for a coach, man. It really is, because I've been in that, and the players always know. They know if this guy's playing, and if Connor Wegman, and if he takes him back in there and he don't play good, that's going to cause dissension in the locker room. So that's just a tough deal. So my next question is this, Brent, is with Mike Elko coming in after Jimbo Fisher. We talked about it last year, how Jimbo, we felt like something was going on in the locker room. He lost the kids. How has Mike Elko come back? I know he's been there as a defensive coordinator, but how has he come in? And with this transfer portal and all that stuff, with bringing guys in, you bring your own guys in. But how has he made such a significant impact in 1 year doing that, what Jimbo Fisher could not get done over a couple of years?
Yeah, he did a masterful job of finding guys like BJ Mays. He was a defensive back at Alabama, Birmingham, and I think before that Incarnate Word and San Antonio. So obviously we all wrote and talked about those great recruiting classes that Jimbo brought in. But then Elko came in, did a good job of hanging on to some of those key guys, and then mixing in a guy like BJ Mays, who had 2 interceptions against LSU and really kind of helped turn that tide. And I'll say this about him, and kind of getting to know him his first time around at A&M a little bit, is just he's a real down-to-earth guy. But yet he also has that Ivy League intellect where he's able to kind of mix that. And I've kind of joked a little bit, semi-joked along the way, that we use this thing called Otter Transcript. And when we do these interviews, his copy, because it does a translation for you, essentially for the interview, so you don't have to transcribe it. His copy is by far the cleanest I've ever seen from a coach or player over years of using it. Now, what that means for wins and losses, I don't know, but I do think it says something about his ability to kind of put thoughts together and so forth along those ways. And I do think that translates to running a program overall. And you also talk about a guy, he started at the Merchant Marine Academy as a defensive coordinator, and it wasn't that long ago, and just paid his dues and worked his way up. Obviously not a real glamorous, glitzy guy, but kind of did it the hard way. And I do think players respect that as well. And he talked about it with us this week. He said, hey, I'm not a guy who goes around and patting them on the back and hugging them and everything. He goes, but I'm with them. I'm with them all the time, and they appreciate that. And I think he's been able to kind of combine that early on. And again, I'll say, Kelly, that schedule he inherited is exceptional. He started with that loss to Notre Dame, and that was a pretty close game as well. But, the setup he walked into in 2024, and that's why going back to November, I actually thought they were going to hang on to Jimbo, because those losses in SEC play were close. And I said, well, he's got a young team, and they still owe him $77 million. And they rolled the dice with the idea of what could turn into a rebuild. Well, so far it hasn't been a rebuild because obviously Mike Elko has them in contention, and that's another thing for A&M. They have had the near misses over the years with Johnny Manziel in 2020 finishing number 5. Now with that expanded playoff for the first time in College Station in a long time, they're actually talking about making their first CFP, which is kind of hard to believe, but they did have the close calls, but just did not make it. And now things are shaping up where they really have a good chance going into November to be part of that playoff talk and maybe host a game along the way. Pretty crazy to think about that he's doing all that in his first year.
Okay, I want to close it out this way, Brent, because you understand this. I'm not sure all of us up here fully get it. What is the level of hatred between A&M and Texas? Is it simply that the Texas people thumb their nose at A&M and give it the "you're a Cal college"? What is it, and what do you think that environment is going to be like if all the stuff we think is going to be on the line is on the line for that regular season finale?
Yeah, George, isn't that crazy to think that a trip to the SEC title game between these old Southwest Conference and Big 12 rivals could possibly be on the line? And here's kind of my ideal example. When I first heard about Texas and Oklahoma going back to July 2021, as we talked about, when I first heard about it, my first thought wasn't, oh, Longhorns in the SEC, Sooners in the SEC. My first thought was, the game is back. That's the first thing that crossed my mind. I go, man, the Longhorns and Aggies are going to be playing together. I called my dad, my elderly dad at the time, who's since passed away. You know, the first thing he said was, "You mean I get to see the Aggies and Longhorns play again?" So he said that was his first reaction. And, and we're longtime Texans, and the schools are only separated by 100 miles, but you talk about a cultural difference. One is so agricultural based and the other is Matthew McConaughey, so there's just so many elements to it. It was my favorite growing up as a kid with no, deep ties to either place. Like I said, I went to Sam Houston. It was my favorite 3 hours of the year watching that game. And I thought that was the one downside back then of A&M exiting the Big 12 and going to the SEC, that game was no longer on, even though it could have been a non-conference game. And both sides along the way said, hey, let's play it. And then the other side wouldn't agree. Now they have no choice. And it would be ludicrous if it's not an annual game, which, as we all know, it looks like it's going to be that nine-game schedule. And they would play every year. It's crazy to think that somehow, some way, this could be like once every 4 years in College Station and once every 4 years in Austin, but I just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be an annual game.
Yeah. Am I right? Last thing, I know I lied. This should have been the last one a minute ago. Ross Bjork, I knew from his days at Western Kentucky, really enjoyed him. But did he not come out after you broke that thing and said, over my dead body, Texas gets in?
I think he found out from me, which is crazy. And yeah, that's how kind of tight-lipped that thing had been. And he was there. People thought he was there as it was some sort of orchestrated move. And he told me later, he goes, man, I've come to a lot of these SEC media days, like when he was at the Ole Miss. He goes, nobody cared. He said he just likes the pomp and pageantry of it and taking it all in. And he happened to be there. And so then the company line from A&M was, we don't want this. We're the only school from the state of Texas. That's what the SEC told us. They very quickly figured out that they were the only ones talking like that, and that just was not going to work, and that it was time. I'm sure they got a call from Greg Sankey and so forth that it was time to walk the company line. So then within a couple of days, they said, bring it on. That was then the message once they realized that there was no way they were going to win that battle of keeping Texas out of the SEC.
Brent, first of all, thank you for doing this. Awesome to catch up with you. And don't forget, you can give the money to Uncle Sam, or you can give it to us.
He's a legend, man. Hey, George, I just appreciate John's retweets, man, because he's got like 150,000 followers, and he still is kind enough to boost my readership just with a simple retweet. So this is an awesome guy.
He does it for me at times. If you see him in the next 10 minutes, tell him to do it again.
I sure will. I
Talk to you.
it, George and Kelly. Thank y'all.
That's a good man right there. Brent Zwerneman with the Houston Chronicle has covered Texas A&M and done it really well for years.
I didn't realize Kyle Field used to actually shake.
Oh, yeah.
That's when they didn't close it off.
Have you ever been there?
I've never been.
Kelly, let's bring him back up from Radio Uganda. Have you been to Kyle Field?
We're having some issues.
We're having
Kelly.
issues. Kelly's out in the hinterlands.
Yeah.
But you know what? He tried, and I give him a lot of credit. First of all, I think it's very cool the way he and his wife attend all of Jameson's football games.
Every game.
They go to all of his daughter's games. I give him a lot of crap. He's a good dad.
Yeah, that's dedication right there.
Now, we praised him. After we come back, you may want to rip him. We'll have Kelly's SEC poll 1 through 16 when we come back on 94.9 The Fan.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun. Here's Officer Garen Hoskins for the Metro Nashville Police Department.
The Metro Nashville Police Department is on the forefront of policing in this century, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. I'm glad I get to find other good officers, other future good officers. And if you're watching today, or you yourself or someone you happen to know is interested, join MNPD.com. Feel free to reach out to us because we need good officers, and it's a great city to work for.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you need to contact Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you are a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. Check them out today at pancoastbenefits.com or call 615-292-3400.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Our coverage begins at 6 o'clock.
Your sports live here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are playing great bump music today. Billy, this is good music. Okay, this is not this crap you all play.
This crap.
Yes, this is good music. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Thank you, you two. Yeah, play it. Turn that up. Wow. Yeah. That's good stuff right there. We got it. Okay. Let's I think we're giving Kelly the rest of the day off. I have a pretty good idea where he is on the way to Cookeville and why he's having some trouble getting with us. I asked him before he went up there to rank his SEC right now, and here's what he came up with. Those of you watching the podcast, you'll see he has Georgia number 1, and he has Texas A&M now number 2. Under the question, I happen to agree with him on this. Do I honestly believe that Texas A&M on a neutral site beats Georgia? No, I don't. He has Texas 3rd. I'll admit, I'm starting to wonder a little bit about Texas. Have they taken on some water? Feels to me like they have.
Yeah, I think they showed some weaknesses on Saturday that had slowly been flaring up. Against Georgia, the Bulldogs were able to heat up Quinn Ewers and get a bunch of pressure on him, and so was Vandy. They got 4 sacks on him in that second half, and like you said yesterday, he just sort of wilts under pressure. You're going to be playing some other good D-lines here down the stretch of this season. You've got A&M, one of the best D-lines in the country. Right now, I like A&M over Texas. Now, not by much, but
the fact, first of all of the games of the year in college football, and let's face it, by the time we get to the end, there will have been 8 to 10 of them.
Yeah, maybe even more.
Starting with the Alabama-Georgia game, the Ohio State-Oregon game, a couple of them. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. We're about to get a Penn State, Ohio State. We're going to end up with 6 to 8 games of the year. None of them will have any more hatred than A&M Texas in College Station. Think back to when Texas stole A&M's baseball coach.
I think right now it's the best rivalry in the conference,
which is really saying something.
Yeah,
because
and I think it says a lot about the two institutions, as you like, academic institutions. But the football means so much to these two fan bases. I think a lot of the SEC fan bases, when A&M came, what was it, decade ago or so? When they came in, it was okay, but it means more over here. And now Texas and Oklahoma come in. Those Texas fans, they traveled to Nashville, and they're a different type of fan base. I noticed with Texas, and you were there up there too, George. They're not as loud and rowdy as an LSU fan base or a Tennessee fan base, but they do seem very smart, and they're kind of the wine and cheese crowd. Whereas A&M is almost a little bit like that too, where they're nice people. I'm not saying
right.
Look, the SEC has that rugged, gritty. Whereas Texas, you got the oil money, the J.R. Ewing wannabes. It's a different style of fandom. I've noticed
the Texas people. The knock on them has been that they try to overpower you with money.
Yeah,
and
I noticed. I mean, you look at Sark on the side. I mean, with his shades, I don't know.
Right.
There's no telling how much those cost. And I walked by Chris Del Conte as he was walking up to the press box. He was in an orange suit with a cowboy hat and boots, and Vince Young was on the sideline. Roger Clemens was on the side.
Roger Clemens was there, yeah.
I mean,
did he misremember anything?
Roger Clemens?
Yeah, when he testified in front of Congress that he had misremembered. And to be honest, I didn't think misremembered was a word. But apparently it is. Maybe I'm the one that needs to get into word wealth. Anyway, Tennessee right now is 4th, and I think a lot of people are kind of sitting back on Tennessee going,
with some questions.
Nico's got to get them back Nico's got to get back to what you saw early in the season, what you saw against Iowa, because in the last few weeks, what I've seen is a very hesitant waiting until somebody is wide open. And as Troy Aikman said last night about Daniel Jones, it doesn't work that way.
No, and this is a big fourth quarter of the season for Nico, and I think it starts Saturday against Kentucky. You've got to get him some confidence, and Kentucky's an opponent to do that, so maybe they can.
Is there a playoff future for Alabama? I don't know, but I do know this. If there's going to be, given that they're number 5 on this list, they're going to have to go to number 6 and win, and Kelly has number 6 at LSU.
Elimination game.
Absolutely. Because both will go in with 2 losses at least.
Yeah.
Kelly has Vandy at 7th, which feels like a sign of a Sports Illustrated apocalypse. I never thought I would ever see that.
I think it's warranted. I mean, I could see somebody having them maybe a little bit lower, but I mean, I can see them being as high as 7th. I mean, they beat Alabama.
Let me ask you this. You think they beat Ole Miss on a neutral site?
I think they'd give them a heck of a fight.
I don't think they would.
I mean, you give them another quarter against Texas, who knows? I think they're about a quarter or 2 behind against Texas. And now, again, I think Texas was going to do whatever it took to win that game, but I don't think Vandy's scared of anybody.
So Kelly's top 8 are Georgia, A&M, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama at number 5, then LSU, Vandy, and Ole Miss round out his top half of the conference. His bottom half, and I think one of the real disappointments in the league, is Missouri. For whatever reason, it just hadn't happened. Now, when Brady Cook goes out, the backup's a stiff. You can call it what you want. He can't play dead in a cowboy movie.
Yeah.
So Missouri he has at number 9. Arkansas, which I think may be on the verge of saving Sam Pittman's job, is number 10. South Carolina is a really dangerous 11. And it feels to me like A&M is walking into a trap. Night game in Columbia, they'll be blaring all that sandstorm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have that crowd going. This will be a real test of what A&M truly is.
I think it's a perfect slip-up opportunity for A&M. We're going to learn a lot about them. Every week there's an upset with a home team as the underdog. A&M will probably be a slight favorite, or is a slight favorite.
They are. They're 2.5, 3-point favorites. So South Carolina is 11. I'll admit Florida has improved past what I thought they could be. They're right now with Kelly at number 12. Oklahoma, to me, is in a free fall at 13. Auburn has quarterback issues, although Peyton Thorne played better at Kentucky Saturday.
Yep.
I'm shocked at what's going on at Kentucky. They're just not very good. And Mississippi State, we've known from the beginning, was going to be somewhere down near the bottom. Back then, the question was, would it be them or Vandy? And at least this year, Vandy has crazy outplayed that stigma. Okay, after the break, we'll take a few of your thoughts. Phone calls, first of all, at area code 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. And we'll take a few text things as well. How do they text us?
Yeah, we've got a couple so far, but let's get them rolling. Get us a comment or question or two in there, whether it's SEC football, heck, maybe the Titans, Tennessee, Vandy. YouTube chat room is just to the right of the screen that you're watching on. Type in your question there. You can swipe up on Twitter and type in a question there as well. Also on Facebook as well. So we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, we'll go to the break, and then we'll talk it over on 94.9 The Fan.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family.
And she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
The key to this song is simple. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. Oh, man.
I like it.
The Eagles. Okay, and not the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, let's go George on line one to get it started. George, welcome into 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're good. Hope you are.
Good. I'm doing pretty well. I've got a couple questions for you about Vanderbilt football. What do you guys think of Hugh Freeze's comments earlier this week that Vandy is similar to the Naval Academy? It sort of seemed like a subtle shot at the program, especially the offensive line. From watching the Service Academy players, a lot of the times the offensive lines on those teams have to cut block because they're smaller because of the requirements that those schools demand of their athletes. I was curious as to what you thought about that.
He may not have thought it through quite the way you are. I think really all he was trying to say was, that they run an offense that has some similarities. They run some triple option. Now, they can throw the ball better than the service academies have until this year when both of them figured out that the forward pass is allowed. Vandy runs a lot of this fake one way, go the other with the option. So, I mean, I think it was just a honest deal.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, George, you might think it's a shot. And look, Hugh Freeze is kind of a loose cannon with some of the comments.
You think?
Especially this season. And you go back, George, I know you remember this. Just a few weeks ago, Hugh Freeze called Missouri, Vandy, I think maybe Arkansas, lesser teams. He said, look at what some of these teams, whether it's Missouri or Vandy with lesser talent, you look at what they're doing. Well, he gets ahead of himself a little bit. So I can see why it's annoying to some Vandy fans. But look, it is unique what Vandy's doing. I think they've got better athletes, George. But I think either way, Vandy will have plenty of motivation on Saturday.
And on the Auburn end of this, it's setting up that next year is going to be a put up or shut up for him. And I would suggest, not that he needs my advice, that he go get him a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you couldn't have more of a contrast between the two coaches heading into this Auburn game on Saturday. I mean, Clark Lee is somebody who is thought of pretty highly by his players. And Hugh Freeze is somebody who he's kind of like the real life embodiment of the coach from Varsity Blues in many ways.
Oh, wow. And
I like it.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Stat of the day, Billy. What's that coach's name?
Oh, man.
I'm about to spit it out.
I've seen clips of Varsity Blues, but never.
Bud Kilmer. Ladies and gentlemen, they play in Bud Kilmer Stadium.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Don't ask me why I knew that.
I like the comparison, George.
I think it's an accurate one, especially with what Bo Wallace said.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bo didn't do him any favors, did he?
No.
No, definitely not.
He took him out behind the woodshed.
Yeah. The other question I had for you guys, with this run that Vandy's been on this season, who are some people that you've heard from about Vanderbilt football that you didn't expect to, and what did they say to you guys?
That's a good one. One guy I've heard from, and George and I actually saw him up in the booth on Saturday, is Chris Lowe, a longtime SEC football writer. Both of us go way back with him, and it's not every Saturday you see Chris Lowe in attendance for a Vanderbilt home game. I mean, you probably can't remember the last time, but
That's exactly what I said to him. I said, "Well, look what the cat has drug out."
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to him on a podcast yesterday, and he's glowing about Vanderbilt. He thinks they can make a bowl game. He thinks they're very well coached. He loves what Clark Lee has done, bringing in Jerry Kill and Diego Pavia, and people talk differently about Vanderbilt now, and I think for a lot of people, they've had to change their way of thinking about how they perceive what they've done this year. So Chris Lowe, for me, George, is one. I'm sure you've got several others, but people have taken notice.
Yeah, I mean, look, this has been a fun story. They're fun to watch. But let me also say this. Let me give you two little warnings here. There's some pressure on them to close the deal and get a sixth win. And the truth of it is, there's nothing easy about getting this sixth.
No, it's always the hardest win. Yeah.
Go to Auburn, you got South Carolina, at LSU, home against Tennessee. The problem is, if you don't get to six, how much of all the other good stuff gets remembered? Now, on the flip side, if you get to six and you get to a bowl, and it's likely Birmingham Bowl, Liberty Bowl, or Music City Bowl, all of a sudden that ramps up expectations. And let's be honest, Diego Pavia is not going to walk through that door next year. Who is? Don't know.
Yeah.
But now Pavia has set a bar that they better go get him a good quarterback. I'm not convinced it's Nate Johnson. I don't think anybody else around it is either.
No, that's the challenge. They've got to continue to leverage the win over Alabama, use it for NIL. And they've got to just keep doing what they're doing. I think if you've got to get to 6 wins this year. But I think the other thing is you've got a chance against South Carolina. You've got a chance, I think, against Tennessee. And who knows what happens at night against LSU. I wouldn't bet on Vanderbilt, but, I mean, they've shown they can compete with just about anybody. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish. Because month of November, they haven't been great in the month of November in the past.
No,
so.
and this is month of November is where their lack of depth sometimes gets them.
Right.
Okay, George, thank you for the call. What else we got?
We've got a good question here from Justin on YouTube. Any chance Florida makes it a game on Saturday against Georgia?
Okay, go back to something, I don't know, was it Tony or was it Kelly who said that Georgia, it feels like, circles certain opponents and brings their A game.
Yeah.
They hate Florida. They will bring their A game, and if I'm Georgia's coaching staff, I would show them some film footage of when Florida was really good and used to rub Georgia's nose in it. And now the worm has turned. There's no Urban Meyer. There's no quarterback. Georgia's the team that's got its act together. And if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm telling him, listen, help all the old guys that got their nose rubbed in it and do it to Florida this Saturday. I don't see Florida putting a scare in Georgia. I just don't.
16.5 is a lot of points. That's the line. I could see Florida covering in this one because, like I said, Billy Napier has them playing a little bit better, and DJ Lagway is a little dangerous now all of a sudden. And so if I'm Georgia, I'm careful with this, but they've got their running back, ETN. So I think Florida's got some momentum, some motivation here, but you're also playing Kirby Smart in Georgia, who, like you said, this is a game they circle every year.
If Georgia rubs Florida's nose in it, it's probably the last gasp for Billy Napier.
I think this is a good last chance opportunity for him to show some fight.
And I'm not sure he has to win it. Look, I don't really know what the situation is at Florida because they are definitely improved. You know, I've heard some crazy stuff about Florida. I've heard Lincoln Riley wants the job.
Signetti,
I've heard Urban Meyer wanted it on an interim basis. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that's come out of Gainesville. You got one more?
We had one a few minutes ago from Brent on YouTube. He said, points, points, and points. Nico is playing with confidence and in control. I don't know if
now?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Right now he is? I don't see it.
I don't see that either. Now, if he does get to that point, Tennessee is, they're cooking with gas, but it's all about Nico for them.
Here's the beauty of it, though. It might just take one play that clicks.
Right.
To get all that to click back in. Because there's no doubt that there's an ability there. But in the last 3 weeks, and to be honest, a lot of the Alabama game, even though it turned out to be a win, their offense hadn't looked like what we'd been seeing.
No, I will say in the fourth quarter, Nico made a couple of big throws.
He did.
That, what you could say won the game. Now, I'll still say their defense won the game, but he did just enough for that offense to say they won the game, right? So I think if he can build off that, that'll be big. I'll be interested to see what they put in the bye week, and because they were doing a lot of Gerber's baby food, just running the football.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Are we not stealing other people's material?
I'll say I like that line. That's
I've used that for years.
That's one of the better lines.
Gerber's baby food.
It's best with the Titans, though.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go to the break. Then we attempt to make you money, much as we did last night.
How about it?
Yeah. How about those Steelers? Stay tuned. This is 94.9 The Fan. Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615 673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday. As you might be able to tell, my buddy Stan Harrison, he's an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, but he's actually here to talk about Apple Collision Centers.
Hello, Middle Tennessee. I'm Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers, and we understand the stress it causes in having an automobile accident. We can help you ease the stress of the auto body repair process at our 3 locations. We're conveniently located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. We've got rental cars available, we have PDR technicians available, and we have windshield technicians available. Please stop by one of our places and see us if you need our services.
And by the way, when you come in his office, this just in, he's a sports fan.
Bucks are going to win the NBA championship, and Dame Lillard's going to be the MVP of the NBA.
Whoa! Go on.
So I think they're going to have the year this year that everyone thought they were going to have last year.
Okay.
I think they're going to be really good this year, and I think Dame could be sneaky MVP candidate. I know most people think he's done. I don't.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday morning starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Final segment on a Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. It's time for Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law.
What was that we were listening to, by the way?
I'm not sure, but I liked it.
I'm not sure either.
I didn't hate it. We've got
Wait
a few.
a minute, hold on. Run a tad bit more of that. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'd never heard the opening to it, though.
I don't know what it is.
I'm not going to sing it.
Please don't. All right. We've got a few college games tonight. New Mexico State and FIU, Louisiana and Texas State, Louisiana Tech and Sam Houston as well. And Game 3 of the World Series, Dodgers and Yankees from the Bronx. We'll see where George is going tonight. And it's all brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law, Another Day in Paradise by Phil Collins.
But I'd never heard the start of it the way he played it.
I never heard
Normally
it,
you just hear the dun, 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 but there was some stuff before that I'd never heard before. Thank you. That was free of charge, and basically it was worth what you paid for it.
Good win last night.
Darn tootin' it was. Giants made it a little more interesting than I think Pittsburgh thought. They had a chance late, but as is the case, every time Daniel Jones has a chance,
he's awful.
It's not all his fault.
Yeah,
In fairness, Billy, their offensive line is a sieve.
Yeah, but he's 1-15 in prime time now.
It's not good.
No.
So, what are we doing tonight? We're taking kind of a chicken path. 2-team teaser.
You chicken.
FIU ought to win at home. Sam Houston, way better than La Tech. This is not a great conference. It's got 3 or 4 halfway decent teams, and the rest of them are just not very good. Tomorrow night may be about the best the league has. Liberty at home coming off the loss against Jacksonville State. Billy, we will have a play on that game.
Oh, will we?
By the way, if you're wondering, give me just a second here. The Dodgers tonight, the Yankees, are 125, and I would take the Yankees.
I would take the Yankees as well.
Add that to the list.
And who called the Dodgers win last night?
Not me.
Yours truly.
Well, where? Where did you call that?
I called it on
in your imagination?
On this very show.
I don't remember.
Give me some credit,
George. I
George.
do not remember you saying that. I'll have to go back.
Get your memory checked.
Yeah, well, you do the same. And you have other items to take care of tomorrow. Don't you worry about my mind. My mind is a terrible thing to waste. We're out of here until tomorrow when Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee will join us. Tennessean sports writer Mike Organ. Hope you'll be with us as well at 3 o'clock on 94.9 The Fan.